Distinguished and respected Sri S. Jayakumar, advocate and country head, his team of officials from Sri Swami Associates, my colleagues, past presidents of the Indian Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and participants of today's program, a warm welcome to all of you and good evening to you. It is with immense pleasure I welcome Sri S. Jayakumar and his team of officials and all of you for this webinar on my behalf and also on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry for this session on e-invoicing and GST returns. The government of India at the center would be introducing e-invoicing from 1st October 2020 onwards. Invoices are the backbone of the accounting system for any business, whether it's small or big. Invoice contains contact information for the sellers or the service provider, the invoice value, everything is contained in the invoice. But now it is only for companies of 500 crores. But I'm sure in a short time, everybody will be asked to go ahead with this invoicing through e-invoicing system. The invoice is to be introduced by government for B2B transactions undertaken by taxpayers with an aggregate turnover of more than 500 crores as on date. It is indeed the most transformational reform under GST, and it will be crucial for businesses to get ready for its implementation to ensure proper and perfect compliance. So we also know that we have the system of for shifting of materials. We now have the e-wables. I think with this e-invoicing that e-wable may get dispensed with. So probably the effort of what we put in for e-wable, we can put in for e-invoicing. So I'm sure this will become a norm in the coming near future. So what are the advantages of e-invoicing as such? E-invoicing will be applicable on taxpayers, like I said, about 500 turnover as it stands today. Invoices will be authenticated electronically by the government. Taxpayers would need to submit invoice details to the government portal and invoice registration portal, IRP. A unique IRN and QR code against every invoice will be generated on the portal. IRN can be cancelled within 24 hours of its generation. This is very crucial because after 24 hours, we may not be able to cancel them. Without IRN and QR code, the invoice issued by the taxpayers will be treated as invalid and recipients will not be eligible to avail input tax credit. All invoice details will be transferred from IRP to GST portal. So this is very good both for supplier and for the recipient. So we need not have to refill all this again into the system. Our friend and GST guide Sri S. Jayakumar will be addressing the audience in virtual platform about this e-invoicing system. I thank him immensely for the time taken to be with us on all the GST informations and all the members, and see that the information is disseminated to each one of the chamber members in the nicest of manner. Thank you, Sri S. Jayakumar. I'm happy that Sri S. Jayakumar and his team will unveil and make presentation on various aspects of e-invoicing. I'm sure this platform is quite appropriate to interact with our team members. As usual, Sri S. Jayakumar and his team members would brief you about e-invoicing and GSTR 2B. I request all the participants to make use of this opportunity and raise any doubts to avail clarifications. With these few words, I welcome once again Sri S. Jayakumar and all of you for this webinar session. It is you who are going to make success of this whole seminar on GST e-invoicing. Now I request that Sri S. Jayakumar may take over the proceedings and start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Sir, first my profound thanks to you. Very sincerely, because I would have done hundreds and hundreds of seminars, and this is the only forum I can be addressed Jayakumar, our friend and a GST consultant, as rightly said by you, sir. I'm very, very happy. In fact, because that came very spontaneously from you, I was watching you. And I'm very, very happy, and I'll stand by that word till the end of my life. Thank you, sir. With these words, I'll just commence the session. In fact, as rightly pointed out by President, whenever there is going to be an impactful notification, circular, or a judgment, immediately I used to call President, or he will call me. And immediately we'll say that, sir, this is, first question will be, President, sir, idukku impact irukka? Impact irundha odane we should do a seminar. This has become a habit for all of us. And for the past so many years, we are doing this. And this is going to be another session. In fact, we never thought in the pandemic, in the situation, in the platform, we will be able to do. First, I was very apprehensive. But I'm very happy. Thanks for the opportunity, President, and all the members. Today, we are going to deal with three important aspects, all brief but very important. First part I'll be handling, where we will be touching upon a latest amendment on the interest. Whatever interest, a brief, I'll take the session. It will be only 3-4 slides, but it's very important. So on interest under Section 50 of the CGST Act, I'll be taking you through the latest amendment brought in by a notification and also a press release. That will be the first part. The second part will be on the GSTR 2B, which was recently introduced by the government. In fact, it should have come alongside on 1/7/2017 itself, alongside the But as we all know that there was so many tumbles in the server, and there was a lot of issues. 3 went away. Finally, 2B has come. This is a radical change it is not going to bring in. It is going to be only for a reconciliation dashboard they have conceived. But longer run, it will be very, very beneficial for us. So that part will be taken by our upcoming couple. I would say he's a brigadier. Mr. Nitin Chopra will be taking you through the GSTR 2B slides. And the final will be on the e-invoicing, as rightly pointed out by President. This e-invoicing right now, it's 500 crores மேல இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கும் மற்றும் B2B transactions மட்டும் தான் வந்திருக்கு. But days are not very far that it is going to be becoming, it is going to be the norm of the day. In fact, they are also, they have given enough hints that April it will be for 100 crores. Enough hints have been given. So இது இதை நம்ம ஆரம்பத்திலேயே புரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டோம்னாக்க it will be easy for us to who are not there in that 500 bracket. This is an essential knowledge because this is going to be future. Mobile eppadi future and this is going to be future. So it will be very important for all of us to understand this e-invoicing and the benefits thereof. Rightly pointed out by President, this may take away the rigors of e-way bill also, which will be taken by Ms. Maragada Nitya, one of our another upcoming advocate from the stable of Swami Associates. And as usual, there will be a band of Swami Associates from Chennai, and myself will be taking on the questions. In a kelvigal irundhalum, we can take it forward. So with this, I commence the session. And Nitin, can we just go with the slides on my portion of it? As I said, the first part of this 3-part will be on, we have named the session as GST updations because we are going to touch upon 3 major important things. One is amendment to Section 50, 2B and e-invoicing. I'll be taking you through to the Section 50 impact. Next slide, please. Yeah, I put it as an interesting amendment because it is based on interest. It's only an anecdote. To the next slide, please. See, first we need to understand, in the Section 60 of the CGST Act, in the masa katta vendiya tax, of course, we need to, for say August, we need to pay on 20th of September when we are paying when we are filing the GSTR 3B. In case if there is going to be a default or a delay or a non-payment, and there is the tax is not paid on the appropriate date, this is the section which governs, this is the section which imposes interest for such delayed or defaulted tax payment. In the section eppadi irundadunaka, this is how it read when it was, till this amendment, the recent amendment, the section was reading like this. Idhula mukkiyamaana portion and the manjala which I have highlighted. It says, every person who is liable to pay tax in accordance with the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder, but fails to pay the tax or part of the tax to the government within the periods prescribed, which is the next month 20th, shall, for the period for which the tax or part thereof remains unpaid, எதை அந்த பீரியடுக்குள்ள அந்த டயத்துக்குள்ள நம்ம கட்டலையோ அத we can pay on his own with an interest at such a rate not exceeding 18% as may be notified by the government on the recommendations of the council. This is how section 50 was there. இதுல என்ன பிரச்சனை வந்துச்சுன்னா, ரெண்டு இஷ்யூ வந்துச்சு. ஒன்னு என்னக்கா, நம்மள்ட்ட அந்த மாசம் ஃபுல்லா கட்டுறதுக்கு டிஸ்சார்ஜ் பண்றதுக்கு நம்மள்ட்ட பேமெண்ட்டுக்கு கையில கேஷ் இல்ல, டெபிசிட் இருந்துச்சு, இல்ல ஃபார் சம் ரீசன் நம்மளால கட்ட முடியாம போயிடுது. ஒரு 2 months கழிச்சு தான் we are going to file it. அப்ப 2 மாசம் கழிச்சு பே பண்ணும்போது நம்ம கையில ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் நம்மளுடைய 100 ரூபாய் நம்ம கட்ட வேண்டிய டாக்ஸ் வச்சுப்போம். நம்மள்ட்ட 80 ரூபாய் இருந்துச்சு. இதுல ஐடிசில நம்மளுடைய எலக்ட்ரானிக் கிரெடிட் லெட்ஜர்ல 80 rupees இருந்தது. ஆனா 20 ரூபாய் நம்மள்ட்ட இல்ல கேஷ்ல கட்டுறதுக்கு. அதனால ஆகஸ்ட் மாசம் கட்ட வேண்டிய 100 ரூபாய நம்மளால செப்டம்பர் 20ஆம் தேதி 100 ரூபாய் கட்ட முடியல. ஏன்னா நம்மள்ட்ட அந்த 20 ரூபாய் டெபிசிட் இருந்துச்சு. So we did not pay that, and what happened? So there was a default. நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம், subsequent after 2 months or 3 months when pandemic is over and payments are flowing inside, then maybe some December if you are going to decide and pay the tax, 100 ரூபாய்க்கு டாக்ஸ் கட்டும்போது அன்னைக்கு தான் ஃபைல் பண்றோம் ரிட்டர்ன். எப்போ? டிசம்பர் மாசம். அப்ப there is a default of say 3-4 months. Now as per this section, இந்த செக்ஷன் அப்படியே சிம்பிளிசிட்டரா வனிலா கேக்கா இது அப்ளை பண்ணோம்னா என்ன ஆகுது? For the tax which is not paid, that is for 100 rupees, you have to pay an 18% அப்படின்னு வந்துச்சு. பட் நம்மள்ட்ட 80 ரூபாய், நம்மள்ட்ட 80 rupees கிரெடிட் நமக்கு ஆகஸ்ட்லயே அவைலபிளா இருந்துச்சு, which could have been used for September payment. But because of the deficit in the cash, we didn't pay the entire, but still we had the credit. ஆனா இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் கேட்கும்போது முழு 100 ரூபாய்க்கும் கேட்கிற மாதிரி இந்த செக்ஷன் இருந்துச்சு. So பலதரப்பட்ட representations were made. Next slide please. So many representations were made to the council and better sense prevailed. இத முன்னாலேயே 2 years back ஒரு கவுன்சில் மீட்டிங்ல they took cognizance of it and said yes, அப்படி இருக்க கூடாது. 100 ரூபாய்க்கு டாக்ஸ் நீங்க ரிட்டர்ன் ஃபைல் பண்ணி டாக்ஸ் கட்டும்போது உங்க கையில கிரெடிட் என்ன அந்த பீரியட்ல அவைலபிளோ அதை நீங்க ஈஸியா கட்டி இருந்திருக்கலாம். சோ அதை கழிச்சுட்டு பாக்கிய எதுல நீங்க கட்டுறீங்களோ, கேஷ்ல எப்போ எதை கட்டுறீங்களோ அதுக்கு மட்டும்தான் there should be an interest அப்படிங்கிற ப்ரொபோசல் was a widespread claim, and it went to the ears of GST Council. So somewhere in the council, say the number in the next slide, and the council they decided, yeah, it is on the 31st GST Council, they decided yes, this section has to be amended, and so they took cognizance or recommendation kudutanga, because they can only recommend, only the lawmakers or the legislators have to change the but 31st GST Council meeting la, even though there was a recommendation, but it took so long for it to see its day. இது நடுவுல என்ன ஆயிடுச்சுனாக்க, Finance Act 2019 அதுல இந்த அமெண்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்காக அந்த செக்ஷன் 50 கீழ there was a proviso which was introduced. Previous slide. This is the section 100 of the Finance Act 2019 மூலமா நம்ம அந்த GST Council 31st Councilல பண்ண ரெக்கமெண்டேஷனை எனேபிள் பண்றதுக்கு there was a proviso which was introduced, and this is that proviso. இந்த proviso என்ன சொல்லுதுன்னா mail section கீழே provided that the interest on tax payable in respect of supplies made during a tax period and declared in the return, so on, so on, so on. Electron and the highlighted is very important. Shall be levied, the interest shall be levied on that portion of the tax that is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger, which means நீங்க அந்த 100 ரூபாயை கட்டும்போது 80 ரூபாயை எலக்ட்ரானிக் கிரெடிட் லெட்ஜர்ல இருந்து டெபிட் பண்ணிருப்பீங்க, 20 ரூபாயை மட்டும் தான் எலக்ட்ரானிக் கேஷ் லெட்ஜர்ல இருந்து டெபிட் பண்ணுவீங்க. சோ இந்த ப்ரொவைசோ மூலமா they have made the interest is payable one or levied only on that portion where the payment is made from the electronic cash ledger. No amendment. Section 100 of the Finance Act 2019 மூலமா they introduced. But next slide. Even though they introduced this, சாமி வரம் கொடுத்தாலும் பூசாரி வரம் கொடுக்கலங்கிற மாதிரி what happened 2019ல இந்த ப்ரொவைசோவை இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்ணி ஆக்ட்ல கொண்டு வந்தாலும் அதை எனாக்ட் பண்றதுக்கு, அதை எஃபெக்சுவேட் பண்றதுக்கு டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் டிட் நாட் இமீடியட்லி ரியாக்ட். சோ என்னாச்சு, அது பேப்பர்லயே இருந்துச்சு. சோ அதுக்கு நடுவுல என்ன ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா there were few, of course, people went to the courts and court started giving judgments. தெலுங்கானா ஹைகோர்ட் மெகா இன்ஜினியரிங் ஒரு ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட்ல இல்ல மொத்தத்துக்கு 100 ரூபாய்க்கும் கட்டு இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் அப்படின்னு ஒரு ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட் கொடுத்தாங்க. அவங்கள்ட்ட போய் இந்த பினான்ஸ் ஆக்ட்ல வந்திருக்கு அப்படின்னா அது வந்து நோட்டிஃபை ஆகல, அது வெறும் பேப்பர் தான் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு தெலுங்கானா ஹைகோர்ட்ல ஒரு மெகா இன்ஜினியரிங் கேஸ்ல they gave a judgment which is against the trade, saying that for all 100 rupees you have to pay the interest. பேரலா மெட்ராஸ் ஹைகோர்ட்ல இதே மாதிரி ஒரு கேஸ் வந்த போது ஐ திங்க் இட் இஸ் ரெஃபெக்ஸ். அதுல என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா மெட்ராஸ் ஹைகோர்ட் நோ இட் ஷுட் பி ஒன்லி ஃபார் த 20 rupees. தெலுங்கானா ஹைகோர்ட் இஸ் நாட் கரெக்ட் அப்படின்னு இன் பெட்டர் வேர்ட் சொல்லனாலும் they said that இது அமெண்ட் ஆக போகுது, இட் இஸ் ஒன்லி a time where the Finance Act is going to get enacted அப்படின்னு சொல்லி it is only for the 20 rupees, not for the entire 100 rupees. கிரெடிட் லெட்ஜர்ல இருந்ததுக்கு கட்ட வேண்டாம் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் அப்படின்னு ஹோல்டு பண்ணது மட்டும் இல்லாம அவங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்க, இது 1/7/2017ல இருந்தே இதுதான். ஏன்னா டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் ஆர்கியூ பண்ணாங்க இந்த ஆக்ட் இப்பதான் வருது, இது இனிமேதான் ஃபியூச்சர் தான் அதுக்கு நோட்டீஸ் இட் இஸ் ஒன்லி ப்ராஸ்பெக்டிவ். சோ அதனால வந்து பழசுக்கு இது அப்ளிகபிள் இல்லைன்னு ஒரு ஆர்கியூமெண்ட் எடுத்தாங்க டிபார்ட்மெண்ட். அப்ப நோ திஸ் இஸ் a basic principle. So from 1/7/2017 when GST came, this will hold water. மெட்ராஸ் இப்படி ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட்ஸ் வேற வேற மாறிட்டு இருக்கும்போது மறுபடி 39th GST கவுன்சில் மீட்டிங்ல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் 31st recommended that it should come. 39th GST council they recommended it should come retrospectively. Very wonderful rationale. They said not only it should come but it should come from 1/7/2017 வேற ஒரு டைரக்ஷன் கொடுத்து 39th GST council meeting gave a recommendation. Now, after passage of so many days or months, the department has issued this notification, and the notification number is 63 of 2020. And adu moolama they have enacted or they have given life to the Finance Act 2019 section 100 moolama kuduthirundha and the provisoku uyir kuduthu ஆனால் 1/9/2020ல இருந்து தான் அது அப்ளிகபிள். இது இந்த நோட்டிபிகேஷனும் சரி, அந்த அமெண்ட்மெண்ட்டும் சரி, அந்த ப்ரொவைசோவும் சரி அப்படின்னு 25/8/2020 அன்னைக்கு ஒரு நோட்டிபிகேஷன் இஷ்யூ பண்றாங்க. அந்த 24 மணி நேரத்துல ஹோல் இந்தியா கெட்ஸ் எரப்டட். ஜிஎஸ்டி கவுன்சிலே சொல்லிருக்கு இதுக்கு பழைய ரெட்ரோஸ்பெக்டிவ் எஃபெக்ட் கொடுக்கணும்னு. நோட்டிபிகேஷன் கொடுத்து இட் இஸ் எஃபெக்டிவ் ஒன்லி ஃப்ரம் 1/9/2020 கொடுக்குறீங்களே அப்படின்னு கொதிச்சுட்டு இருக்கும்போது மறுநாள் காலையில ஒரு பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ் வருது. That press release says there are technical difficulties. Hello, am I audible?
Yes sir, you are audible sir.
Okay, yes, sir. So there are technical difficulties, அதனால எங்களுக்கு ரெட்ரோஸ்பெக்டிவா கொடுக்க முடியல. So பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ் மூலமா அவங்க ஒரு ஓரலா ஒரு கமிட்மெண்ட் கொடுக்குறாங்க கவர்மெண்ட். They say though this notification is intended to be given from 1/7/2017 due to technical difficulties we are not able to give you, but we assure you that no action will be taken for the period from 1/7/2017 till 31/8/2020 அப்படின்னு ஒரு ஓரல் கமிட்மெண்ட், ஓரல்னு சொல்ல முடியாது, ஒரு பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ் மூலமா கொடுக்குறாங்க. I am still not able to understand what is the technical difficulty. Maybe Prime Minister in one of his very in the speeches, he said, "Inime tax regime la there will not be any retrospective amendment." அப்படின்னு அவர் சொன்னார். ஒருவேளை அதை இவங்க சீரியஸா எடுத்துக்கிட்டு ரெட்ரோஸ்பெக்டிவ் அமெண்ட்மெண்ட் கொடுக்க கூடாது அப்படிங்கிறதுனால அதை பேஸ், it is only my appreciation, I mean what to say, reaction to this. Maybe அதை நினைச்சுக்கிட்டு அவங்க வந்து ரெட்ரோஸ்பெக்டிவா கொடுக்காம இது ஒரு பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ்ல கொடுத்துருக்காங்களான்னு தெரியல. பட் அப்படியே அது உண்மை இல்லை. ஏன்னாக்கா இந்த அன்யூட்டிலைஸ்டு இன்புட் டாக்ஸ் கிரெடிட்டுக்கு இன்புட் சர்வீசஸ் கிடையாது அப்படின்னு ஒரு அமெண்ட்மெண்ட் கொண்டு வந்தாங்க இல்லையா, which came in 2018 or so. அதுக்கு மட்டும் ரெட்ரோஸ்பெக்டிவ் எஃபெக்ட் கொடுத்து இன்னொரு நோட்டிபிகேஷன் கொடுத்தாங்க. ஃப்ரம் 1/7/2017 இருந்து இன்புட் சர்வீசஸ் will not be eligible for. சோ எங்க டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு தேவையோ அங்க வந்து ரெட்ரோஸ்பெக்டிவ் அமெண்ட்மெண்ட் கொடுக்கலாம். ஆனா இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு கவுன்சிலே ரெக்கமெண்ட் பண்ணின ஒரு வேலிட் ஒரு பெனிஃபிஷியல் லெஜிஸ்லேஷனுக்கு, சென்சிபிள் பெனிஃபிஷியல் கூட கிடையாது, this is a sensible இதுக்கு வந்து why they have chickened out in not giving a retrospective amendment ன்னு புரியல. But anyways, they have said that there will not be a retrospective effect or they will not give any notices. இப்போ கொஸ்டின் என்னன்னாக்கா, பழசுக்கு கொடுக்க மாட்டோம்னு பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க, கொடுத்ததுக்கு என்ன பண்ண போறாங்கன்னு தெரியல. வெதர் ஏன்னாக்கா கொடுக்காம இருந்தா நம்ம வந்து அதுக்கு ஆர்டர் போட தேவையில்லை. இப்போ ஒரு ஆக்ஷனே எடுக்காம இருந்தா பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ் படி அவங்க எடுக்காம இருக்கலாம். பட் ஏற்கனவே கொடுத்த நோட்டீசஸுக்கு ஒரு பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ வச்சு ஆர்டர் போட முடியாது. அன்னி தேதிக்கு ஒண்ணு இது ரெட்ராஸ்பெக்டிவா அமெண்ட் ஆயிருந்திருக்கணும், அப்படி இல்லைனாக்க அவங்க கன்ஃபார்ம் தான் பண்ணணும். ஏன்னா அன்னைக்கு செக்ஷன் 50 அப்படிதான் இருந்துச்சு. So this is going to create a lot of funny situations. Let us wait and see. But now, as far as now, one, it is effectuated from 1/9/2020. A press release is given that for the previous period, they will not initiate any action. This is on the Section 60 amendment to the CGST Act. Now, any questions on this? We'll take it. Otherwise, we'll go to the GSTR 2B.
Sir, I have a question. If supposing people have already paid that interest, so they cannot go for a refund, no?
Sir, we should go for a refund, sir. Because
there is no act which can where
true. அவங்களுக்கு இப்போ நான் சொன்ன மாதிரி தான், இந்த பழைய கொடுத்த நோட்டீஸ் இஷ்யூ ஆகி இருக்குல்ல, அந்த இஷ்யூ ஆகி இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கே அவங்க எப்படி இப்போ அதை டிராப் பண்ண போறாங்க? They don't have any law. So we need to pressurize by giving a refund claim and make them to enact a retrospective amendment. That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
We should not allow that to go in the drain pipe. We should file refund claims and let it go to the court or let it go to the appropriate forum and let them be forced to make a retrospective amendment from 1/7/2017 and clear the refunds. Otherwise, there is no equity. Exactly.
What is happening, sir? The court order says, Chennai High Court order says, இது வந்து retrospective effect வந்து applicable சொல்லிட்டாங்க.
Correct.
The Finance Act comes after that, saying that it is applicable only from 1/9/2020. So
correct.
this also supersedes that. That is an issue.
But there is a press release which is given, yes, which doesn't have a legal backing. I mean, to the stricter sense of spirit and law, there is no or press release க்கு ஒரு பெரிய legal backing கிடையாது. But still they have given a press release. So touching upon that press release, we have to go ahead and say that there is no interest and we have to file it. Let them reject it. We'll go to the court and try to get it, because otherwise you will be in a very disadvantageous position that you would have paid the interest and there will be persons alongside who are there who would not have paid the, and நான் சொன்ன மாதிரி பழைய நோட்டீஸ் கொடுத்து பெண்டிங்ல இருக்கிறதோ இல்ல அப்பீல்ல இருக்கிறதோ கூட இந்த பிரஸ் ரிலீஸ் வச்சு டிராப் பண்ண முடியும் பழைய பீரியட். So they need an amendment. Let us see, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Any other queries on this? Okay, we'll go to the next session. That will be on GSTR 2B, which will be taken by Nitin. Over to you, Nitin.
Thank you, sir. Sir, is my audio audible? I'm
Yes,
screen
you're clear.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're clear.
Yeah. Good evening to everyone, the participants. The I thank President of the Chamber and all the organizers, as well as my senior JK sir, for giving me this opportunity. So now, in the next few minutes, like 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to touch upon the latest change in the GST portal. GST portal is a very dynamic one, which is regularly bringing on many changes, especially in the return section. GSTR 3, GSTR 1, 2, and 3 were the basic returns which were about to come. Since due to the technical issues and technical lapses, they weren't put in place. Instead of that, GSTR 2A was brought in, and now to avoid and to take it out of the better position, the government has come up with something called as GSTR 2B. GSTR 2B is nothing but an auto drafted ITC statement. That means whatever details which are being uploaded by the supplier either in GSTR 1 or GSTR 5 by a non-resident taxable person or an ISD in GSTR 6, all the outward supplies which are uploaded by the supplier, it gets auto-populated and comes in GSTR 2B. That is how GSTR 2A is also today. But GSTR 2B has few different, is little bit different from GSTR 2A, which we'll be seeing in the subsequent slides. It is very important to understand that it is not a notified return. It is not, GSTR 2B is not at all a return, and it is only for a viewing purpose. No action can be taken in GSTR 2B, like accept, reject, modify. None of the option is being available. It is just an auto-populated statement based on the information uploaded or reported by the supplier, which can be viewed by the recipient. GSTR 2B, as I have already said, it is being uploaded by the supplier either through GSTR 1, GSTR 5 by a non-resident taxable person, or input service distributor in GSTR 6. One very good welcoming change in GSTR 2B, which is also implemented in GSTR 2A, is earlier when there was GSTR 2A, we were not getting the information of input tax credit which were regarding the import of goods and also all the procurements from SCZ. Now, even these are being made available in GSTR 2B based on linking with IceGate, and which is not included in GSTR 2B even till today is when anything is being procured from an unregistered person and on which tax is to be paid by the recipient, then all those input tax credit details are not reflected in GSTR 2B. So what is GSTR 2B? What are all the tables? What does it contain? How is it different from GSTR 2A? Or we are going to see that. GSTR 2B, basically it has 4 tables. Table 1 and 2 contains the basic details of the name, legal name, trade name, etc. Two important tables are table 3 and table 4. It specifically divides into 2 parts, ITC available and ITC not available. So GSTR 2B would be giving us the details of for all these, this much ITC is available, this much ITC is not available. But how does it work? One of the important thing to be noted is the data which will be reflected in GSTR 2B will be from the data uploaded by the supplier in GSTR 1. And if the supplier files the GSTR 1 between the period, example, for the GSTR 2B pertaining to July 2020, if the GSTR 1 is being filed or uploaded by the supplier between 12th of July to 11th of August, only those data, only those invoices, credit pertaining to only those invoices will be reflecting in GSTR 2B, because the due date for filing GSTR 2 or GSTR 1 by the supplier for July 2020 would be 11th of August. So they have kept the cutoff date. So whatever invoice details is being uploaded by the supplier in GSTR 1 by the date maximum of 11th of August, only that will be available in GSTR 2B pertaining to July 2020. So how does the table, I have just brought a glimpse of a screenshot here. This is table 3. This pertains to, it's highlighted in green color, ITC available, and the other one is ITC not available. This screen, the data in this screen is pertaining to ITC available. All these are like model figures from a small registration. Like what all does it contain? It first, part A and part B. ITC available has been divided into two parts, part A and part B. Part A deals with ITC which is available. ITC which is available. And as J. Kumar sir has already said, this is a stepping stone to achieving the ultimate aim of the return mechanism in the GST net by the GST network. So what all the ITC details which will be available in this 2B will automatically be filled in GSTR 3B. It is not yet effective now, but that is their ultimate aim, which even the detailed report of it says. The intention behind bringing of this GSTR 2B. How does it work? What are all the details are in GSTR 2B? First, part A deals with ITC available. First one is all other ITC supplied from a registered person. So which is being filed by a supplier in his GSTR 1 or GSTR 5 by a non-resident taxable person, then all those details will be available. All those details will be reflected in the first one, part A1, in this column of all other ITC. And this will be automatically fed in 4A5 of GSTR 3B. GSTR 3B 4, table 4 deals with ITC. So it will be automatically fed in that, but it is not yet functioning today. It will be brought in the future date. Next one, inward supplies from ISD. When the input service distributor uploads the data in GSTR 6, all those will be reflected in this column. Next, inward supplies liable for reverse charge. So this is little bit interesting one. There are two types of people. There are several transactions for which tax has to be paid under reverse charge. Few which we may be purchasing, we may be procuring from a registered person, and few from an unregistered person. When a registered person supplies any goods or services, but which are to be, tax has to be paid in reverse charge, even for all those transactions, the registered person has to put on the details in GSTR 1. So when a registered person makes a supply for which tax is to be paid by the recipient under reverse charge, all those ITC details will be reflected here in this part A3. So this is cumulative of this table. Part A deals with total ITC available. There may be also certain transactions for which the supplier would be issuing a credit note, where invoice would have been issued in the month of June, whereas credit note would have been issued in the month of July. So what generally has to be done is, what all ITC is available for the June we will be taking, and the credit note ITC we will be reducing in other reversals. So that is also being auto-populated here. Part B deals with ITC reversal. Credit may be reversed in the relevant headings in GSTR 3D. Generally, credit note details would be reflecting in this table, which would be automatically reflecting in 4B2. This is what ITC available table of GSTR 2B is. It is also very interesting that when expand all option is clicked over here, also it expands below, it shows how many invoices are there. Suppose 378 rupees is from an invoice, they will show it is from an invoice. Then they will show how many from debit notes. Then here how much from credit note. All those invoice wise details like invoice or debit note or credit note, all those details are also given. The next table is ITC not available. ITC not available, like they have concluded, they have come up with two broad aspects, particularly two aspects which they themselves classify as ITC not available. It has nothing to do with blocked credit of 17.5. It has nothing to do with that. The two specific entries, two specific credits which appear in this are, one, if it is time barred by section 16.4. Suppose for the period of March 2019, okay, for the period of March 2019, a recipient can take credit maximum by 20th of October 2020, which is the date for filing of GSTR 3B for September return of the subsequent financial year. So for the period of March 2019, credit can be at last taken by 20th of October 2020. If the supplier files the GSTR 1 return for the period of March 2019 after 20th of October 2020, then that will reflect here. It will say this is not an eligible credit. You cannot take this credit as per section 16.4. So that is one particular type of transaction which they are covering here. And the second type of transaction which they are covering is, suppose a person in Tamil Nadu is going for a business trip to Delhi. he gives his GST number in the hotel which he is staying over there. So the hotel will be charging respect to CGST and SGST because of the place of supply provisions of the IGST Act. Even though the recipient is in Tamil Nadu, even though the GST number of Tamil Nadu is being given, because of the place of supply provisions, for that particular transaction, the hotel in Delhi would be charging CGST and SGST. So now all those CGST and SGST credits where the location of the supplier and the place of supply is in a state which is different from the location of the recipient, then all those also the portal automatically would recognize that it is not an eligible ITC is not available. So these two particular type of transactions are being reflected, are being captured in this table. Also, the report says any other can also be captured here, but particularly they have mentioned these two type of transactions. So this is broadly what GSTR 2B is. Further, there are many great advantages of GSTR 2B also, along with the disadvantages. So this is what I said, ITC not available. One, where the credit period or time limit to avail credit has been expired, has been time bar, and the other situation is where place of supply and the location of the supplier are in one state, whereas the location of the recipient is another state. For these both type of transactions, ITC is not available. That particular ITC will be reflected in table 4. Now, what is the difference? We have seen GSTR 2A, we have been using until today, and GSTR 2B, which has come recently. And more particularly, this GSTR 2B is effective. That means it has been effective in the portal only for the period from July 2020 onwards. For the period prior to that, they have not brought in this system, this mechanism. Now, very great from a legal aspect, it is very important to understand that it is very important to bring into your notice that GSTR 2A is through an act. It is being empowered from section 38 to 38 subsection 2 of the CGST Act, read along with Rule 60 sub Rule 1. Whereas there is nothing for relating to GSTR 2B in any rule or even the CGST Act or even through any notification. In the 39th GST Council meeting, which was held during March of 2020, it was deliberated that we will be bringing on this mechanism, and by a press release during August 29th, they have said that we are bringing out this mechanism. This is how GSTR 2B is. This is how it will be functioning. And further details were also uploaded in the GST network, www.gst.gov.in. Now, what is the important difference is GSTR 2A is dynamic. It would be changing. If we take, suppose for an example, GSTR 2A of July 2020, okay, the due date is by 11th of August 2020. Even if the supplier files July 2020 GSTR 1 after the due date, suppose they also have filed during September, then that credit will be appearing in the July 2020's GSTR 1 itself. So it will go and appear there. Whereas GSTR 2B is freezed by date. The details in GSTR 2B will be reflecting based on the date when the return is being filed. So now, suppose for July 2020 GSTR 1, if it is being filed, example on 10th of October, then this credit pertaining to July 2020 will be appearing in September's GSTR 2B. So these are the differences. This is dynamic. It would be changing. GSTR 2A would be changing rapidly as and when the supplier uploads. GSTR 2B would be static depending upon the date of filing of GSTR 1. So the main purpose for bringing GSTR 2B is they have recently brought out a rule called as Rule 36.4, which says whatever credit was appearing on 10th or 11th on the due date of filing of GSTR 1, all those credit plus 10% you can take, matching plus 10 you can take. So to identify how much credit did the recipient have on that particular date, they needed a static data. So that's why that is one of the intention for bringing this GSTR 2B. So this is what I have explained, the generation period, that it is very dynamic. As and when the supplier uploads, the data would be changing in GSTR 2A, whereas GSTR 2B works on a static way. Then all the what does it contain? All the invoices pertaining to the relevant month would be in GSTR 2A, whereas what is being uploaded from this date to that date will only be in GSTR 2B. Suppose invoice or debit note which is beyond the due date, which is what I explained in section 16.4. In GSTR2A, if suppose March 2019's GSTR1 itself is being filed after October 20, 2020, even then that would be still, that credit would be appearing in GSTR2A of March 2019, whereas in GSTR2B it would be in September 2020's GSTR2B, and it would be stating that this much credit is not available because of section 16.4. So both are they have their own differences. GSTR2 is by statute, GSTR2A is by statute, GSTR2B is not through any statute, but it is solving the purpose of the government in restricting excess availment of credit. So I have brought out 4 scenarios. Like the first scenario, the one thing is staticness. All the invoice data are same. It pertains to 1st June 2020. The first scenario is if the return is being properly filed within the due date of 11th July 2020. GSTR1, if the supplier files within the due date, then even in 2A, it will appear in the June 2020 GSTR2A, and 2B also June 2020's 2B. So there is no issue in it. The second scenario is where the due date for filing is 11th of July 2020 for invoices invoice dated 1/6/2020. But what if the return itself, GSTR1 return for June itself, is filed beyond the due date on 8th of August 2020 is an example date? Then in GSTR2A, it will be reflecting in June. But since GSTR2B is date to date, it will be appearing in GSTR2B of July. So this is a little critical change where the return itself is being filed after the due date. The third scenario is where I had filed GSTR1 within the time. I have already filed, but one specific invoice was left out. We have not filed in the June 2020's return. But then in July 2020's GSTR1, if that invoice is being filed, then GSTR2A, it will be reflecting in July 2020, and even in GSTR2B, it will be reflecting in July 2020, because it is being filed within the due date of July's return, July's GSTR1. Now, next comes a very different scenario, which we have already discussed, where the invoice is being filed, GSTR1 is being filed, or it is being reported after the due date to avail the credit itself. Suppose the last date to avail credit by the recipient for an invoice pertaining to 1/6/2020 is 20th of October 2021. Suppose the GSTR1 itself is being filed after that. It is being filed after 20th of October 2021, assuming it is filed during 11th of December, okay, 11th of November or December. Then in GSTR2A as well as in GSTR2B, it will be appearing as not available. It will be appearing as not available credit in GSTR2B automatically. So these are all the broad differences in GSTR2A and GSTR2B. There are certain like what is an advantage for the government by implementing this GSTR2B? It helps in complying with Rule 36.4, which says on a particular date, what credit you have received, that much credit which is being matched plus 10% you can avail it. So to identify what credit the recipient had on that particular day, it is helpful for the department. Now they can approach the assessees based on that. Scrutiny can be done based on that they have violated Rule 36.4. Then second, identifies vendor who have filed the return beyond the due date or who have filed within the due date. Now, since it is based on GSTR2B gives us the data based on invoice wise as well as supplier wise, we can know when this return has been filed. When we open our dashboard, we will be knowing like this date, this period's return is being filed, or it is being filed in another period's return. So all those details are also given in GSTR2B. And GSTR2B also gives a PDF format as well as Excel format of all the invoice details and also the credit available in the respective table. It also gives us in which table this credit should be reflected in GSTR3B also. One very important and a very interesting feature of this GSTR2B is it gives us supplier wise and document wise details. Example, if Mr. A has procured 10 invoices, 10 purchases as being made from Mr. B, then we can know the data is also being given in such a format Mr. B has given this much invoices. These are all the invoice numbers. These are all the tax amount. So it can be easily cross-verified with the books of accounts that one particular supplier has supplied how many invoices to me and how many are being uploaded by him. Also, the invoice-wise details are also being provided. So these are all the broad advantages. Both GSTR2B has made little complicated, has made the things little complicated, as well as it has given out many new features which was not earlier there in GSTR2A. So there are both possibilities. Department can also start their scrutinies that Rule 36(4) is being violated. So we have to be vigilant on it. GSTR2B should be considered before availing the ITC, and this feature would be the future as it has been discussed. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Nitin. In effect, I would sum up in 2 words. This GSTR2B is not for us. It is for the department. When they are going to do a scrutiny, when they are going to do an audit, and when they are going to do that Rule 3464 checks, that whether you have taken credit only to the extent of 10% plus whatever appearing 2A, this is going to become very handy. But a collateral advantage to us, இதோடைய கிளை நலன் என்ன அப்படின்னாக்க, as rightly pointed out by Nitin, we can always, now we will be in a position to see, open and see whether a supplier has filed the return, on which date he has filed his, and the return means, I don't think it is GSTR3B return, it is only GSTR1 return, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. GSTR1.
So still, we will not be sure whether he has filed the return 3B file பண்ணிட்டாரா, payment அதுக்கு பண்ணிட்டாரா அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கான, unless maybe as I said, this is only a beginning. If this is going to get connected to 3B, which is going to become a digital 3A, பழைய 3A மறுபடி மாறும்போது, if that is connected, then all the receivers will be in a position to directly view whether he has filed the return and also paid the tax to be, trouble free. So this is only a beginning. At this point, it helps only the department mostly, but to us, it will help us to see whether GSTR1 is filed by the suppliers on date. இதுல இன்னொரு பார்ட் என்னன்னாக்க, it also அதுவே ஒரு adjudication போடுது. இந்த இன்வாய்ஸஸ்க்கு எல்லாம் கிடையாது அப்படின்னு நிதின் சொன்ன மாதிரி 2 சிச்சுவேஷனை அது ஹேண்டில் பண்ணுது. ஒன்னு என்னன்னாக்க, நம்மளுடைய இன்வாய்ஸ் டேட் நிறைய பேருக்கு கன்ஃபியூஷன் வரும். எங்களுக்கு நிறைய கால்ஸ் அதுதான் வரும். சார், இந்த இன்வாய்ஸுக்கு எது ரெலவென்ட் டேட்டு, இந்த இன்வாய்ஸை இன்னைக்கு எடுக்கலாமான்னு. நாங்கெல்லாம் சொல்லவே வேண்டாம், 2B சொல்லிடும். இந்த டேட் இன்வாய்ஸுக்கு இன்னைக்கு தான் எடுக்கணும், இல்லைன்னா அது நேரா போய் அந்த 4ல உட்காந்துக்கிட்டு இட் வில் சே தட் கிரெடிட் இஸ் நாட் எலிஜிபிள். ஸோ அது ஒண்ணு. ரெண்டாவது பிளேஸ் ஆஃப் சப்ளை, அது ஹி ரைட்லி எக்ஸ்பிளைன். டெல்லியில போய் லாட்ஜில் தங்கினாலோ ஒரு ஹோட்டல்ல தங்கினாலோ அவங்க கொடுக்குற இன்வாய்ஸ்ல ஒரு சிஜிஎஸ்டி எஸ்ஜிஎஸ்டி இருக்கும். நம்ம நம்மளுடைய பிசினஸ் பர்பஸ்க்காகவே போயிருப்போம். அதுல ஒரு பல கன்ஃபியூஷன் இருக்கு. அந்த கிரெடிட்டை நம்ம எப்படி எடுக்கிறதுன்னு. எஸ்ஜிஎஸ்டி எடுக்கவே முடியாது, ஆனா சிஜிஎஸ்டி எடுக்கலாமா அப்படின்னு ஒரு டிஸ்கஷன், ஒரு டிபேட் ஓடிட்டு இருக்கு. அதையும் இது ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிடுது. அந்த மாதிரி இடத்துல யூ cannot take it அப்படின்னு it itself prohibits and puts it in the negative credit column. So this, what is Mr. Ramji saying? Yeah, filing of 3B is now coming as an information, the dashboard. Very rightly said. So it is more of a dashboard where you can view and department can use. அவ்வளவுதான். நீங்க வியூ பண்ணுவீங்க, அவங்க யூஸ் பண்ணலாம். So with this 2B, we move on to the last session, which will be e-invoicing, which will be taken by Nithya. Over to you, Nithya.
Yes, sir. Nitin, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yes. Thank you. Good evening to one and all. So, as rightly pointed out in the beginning, that e-invoicing is going to be implemented from 1st October 2020, and it's going to be the norm in the future. So with India moving towards digitalization, multiple measures are being taken to make the GST system further more technology driven. E-invoicing is one such major step. Nitin, can we have the next slide? E-invoicing or electronic invoicing is transfer of an invoice from the supplier to the buyer in an integrated electronic format. It is not generating of an invoice from the central tax portal. Rather, it is reporting of an invoice to the central tax portal and intimating to the government that invoice has been issued to the buyer. That is why the e-invoicing portal is called invoice registration portal. Can we have the next slide, Nitin? This concept is not new to India or unique to India. It has already been adopted in various countries. Nearly 112 countries have adopted it in different forms and formats. Some of them have made it mandatory for their B2B transaction, and some of them have also made it applicable for their B2C transaction. The major objective for this e-invoicing was to make the GST returns system automated. Presently, there is very minimal, or we can say there is no integration between the GST portal and the e-waybill portal. So the taxpayers have to report the invoice details once in the GST portal for furnishing the return, and then in the e-waybill portal for generating e-waybill. Due to this multiple times reporting, taxpayers commit data entry errors like giving in the wrong invoice number or invoice value. All these issues will get eliminated with the e-invoicing system, as once the e-invoice, which is generated by our own accounting system, is reported to the e-invoicing portal, it would generate a unique reference number and will then push the details to the GST portal, and the RGSTR1 of the supplier gets auto-populated with the details. Simultaneously, part A of the e-way bill also gets auto-populated with these data. Apart from this, this also helps in resolving reconciliation issues, as once GSTR1 gets auto-reported with the invoice details, the buyer can see these details in his 2A. And this also, the e-invoicing also reduces portal issues due to heavy traffic on the last due date of GSTR1. Can we have the next slide? This is applicable from 1st October 2020. Though it was introduced in 2019, the implementation date was deferred, and finally it's going to be applicable from 1st October 2020. Initially, right now, it is applicable only for the taxpayers having an aggregate turnover of more than 500 crores in financial year 2019-20. I'll be referring to these taxpayers as notified taxpayers in the entire session. In future, it will also be implemented for those below 500 crores. And this is applicable only for the B2B and export transaction. Certain class of registered persons like SEZ units and certain sectors like banking, insurance, non-banking, financial corporation, GTA service providers, passenger transportation service providers, and multiplex screen operators like PVR theaters have been exempted from this e-invoicing. Let us now see to what all transaction it is applicable. Nitin, can we have the next slide? This is right now available for only B2B, business to government, export, deemed export, and supplies through e-commerce operators. So B2C transactions are not covered in this e-invoicing system. However, these notified taxpayers, while issuing an invoice to their B2C customers, they have to display a QR code. This should not be confused with e-invoicing. This is a dynamic QR code which is generated using our own accounting system. The purpose is to enable digitalized payment. Do we have to report all the documents with respect of these supplies? Can we have the next slide? No, we have to report only GST invoice, debit note, credit note in respect of B2B and export transaction in the e-invoicing portal. Our accounting system should be tuned in such a way that bill of supply, delivery challan, receipt voucher, and refund voucher are not pushed to the e-invoicing portal. Otherwise, an error will be reported, and also there may be chances that our GSTN gets blocked. Can we have the next slide? So there are few important terms to understand the e-invoicing concept. They are IRN, Invoice Reference Number, QR Code, Quick Response Code, IRP, Invoice Registration Portal. Let us see what they are. Invoice Reference Number is a 64-digit long string, alphanumerical string, and it is also called as hash. It is generated using the hash algorithm. This number is very unique to each invoice, debit note, or credit note. It is in addition to the invoice number generated by our accounting system. This IRN is made up of three parameters: supplier GSTN, document type and number, and financial year. Let us now see what QR code is. Quick response code or barcode is, it helps the tax officers to verify the genuineness of transaction during their road checks, even without a help of internet, by using a mobile app. Recently, there has been a release that the mobile app has also been made enabled in the portal. This QR code consists of key details of invoice, which are GSTN of supplier and recipient, invoice number and date, invoice value, number of line items, HSN code of main item, and unique IRN. Let us now see what the invoice registration portal is. Invoice registration portal are entities that act as registrars and operate through a website for assigning invoice reference number and QR code. They also integrate with the GST system and e-waybill system to auto-report the invoice details in the portal. At present, there is only one IRP, that is NIC, National Informatics Centers. Multiple registrars will be added in the future. In order to facilitate large number of e-invoices simultaneously and also to avoid heavy traffic, the government has notified 10 different portals, which we are going to see in the next slide. As seen in the screen, there are 10 dedicated portals notified by the government. Out of this, the first one, einvoice1.gst.gov.in, is available. Next slide. Now let us understand the flow of invoice. Presently, we are generating an invoice from our accounting system, taking a printout and then giving it to buyer. Before giving it to buyer, there are two other steps which we have to perform, which we are going to see in this. First, an invoice is generated using one's accounting system. We should make sure that it contains all the mandatory details as per the schema, which we are going to see in the later part of this session. This would be then converted to JSON. JSON is JavaScript object notation. It is a format which uses human readable text to transmit data. After uploading the JSON format of the invoice to the invoice registration portal, it generates a IRN, invoice reference number, and then pushes the details to the GST system, where the GST system would do deduplication check. That is, it would check if the same IRN, that is, if the same supplier has already issued the same document number for pertaining to the same financial year or not. That is why if we send the same invoice to all the 10 portals, it would only generate one IRN. And then it would, once the GST system confirms that this invoice reference number is unique to this invoice alone, the invoice registration portal would add a QR code and then would send a digitally signed e-invoice to the seller. Digitally signed does not mean that there is a person sitting in the portal and signing it. It means that it is digitally encrypted and it cannot be tampered. Even if any attempt is made to tamper it, the invoice will be invalid. Simultaneously, the invoice registration portal also uploads the invoice details to the GSTR1 of the supplier, and the buyer will consequently see it in his GSTR to it. And with this invoice details, the part A of the e-way bill also gets generated. Let us now go to the next slide. Having a standardized format would ensure interoperability of e-invoices across the GST invoice system, and also it would help to make it machine readable. That is, an invoice generated using one software would be readable by a different software used in a different system. For example, an invoice generated using SAP would be readable by a system using Tally. For this, the government has notified a standard schema. The schema is based on international standards, but it has been customized to cater to the business needs of Indian business. The schema is called Form GST INV1. The schema contains mandatory details and few optional fields. Mandatory details are basic details, supplier information, recipient information, invoice line items, document details, document value. The taxpayer has to ensure that all the invoices reported to the invoice registration portal contains all these mandatory details. If the taxpayer opts to provide payment information, reference information, batch details or expiry details or purchase order details, etc., he can also choose to provide such details, but they are optional and they can be chosen as per the business needs. Let us now see the modes of reporting e-invoice. There are various modes: web-based, SMS-based, API-based, GSP-based, GST Suvidha provider, and offline tool-based. Out of this, three modes. Next slide. That is direct API integration, through GSP, and offline bulk upload facilities are currently available. Let us see what they are. Next slide. API or application programming interface. It acts as an intermediary and helps two systems to interact with each other, so that once the invoice is reported to the invoice registration portal, it would generate an IRN and we can see it through our own system. And there is one more mode, offline mode, and this facilitates generation of multiple e-invoices simultaneously. There are four formats: format A, B, C, and D, which a taxpayer can choose as per the invoice details he wants to provide. For example, he wants to provide only mandatory details and there is only one line item. He can go for a simple upload tool, and if he wants to provide some optional details like payment information or purchase order information, etc., and he has multiple line items, he can go for a comprehensive one. Let us now go to the next slide. E-way bill and the invoice registration portal are integrated and they share the same information. So the credential, we can log into the this e-invoicing portal using the e-way-bills credentials. If we do not have the e-way-bill credential, we can create a new, we can register it freshly and create new user login ID. Let us now see how the sample e-invoice looks like. This is the sample e-invoice and there is a QR code on the right side of the screen. This is in the form of an image, but when the e-invoicing sends QR code to the seller, it is in the form of string. So our accounting system should have a utility to transform the string into an image. And this is the IRN, 64 digit long. We need not print IRN in all our invoices, but we have to print the QR code mandatorily in all our invoices issued to the registered buyers. The invoice registration portal, next slide please, allows a cancellation, but it does not allow amendment. And cancellation also, we have to do it within 24 hours. Beyond 24 hours, any cancellation has to be done in our GST system or GST portal as we are regularly doing it. Any invoice issued by these notified persons in any other format other than e-invoicing format, it will be treated as invalid and the ITC would be denied to the recipient. The taxpayers can also see if our vendors are are supposed to issue e-invoice or not. There is a utility given by the portal itself. We have to ensure that our accounting system should have all the mandatory fields available as per the schema. Last slide. Any failure to comply with this e-invoicing, as already seen in the last slide, that ITC would be denied to the recipient. Apart from it, the taxpayer would also be imposed with penalty for issuing an invalid invoice. And any movement of goods on the basis of the invoice would lead to detention and confiscation. With this, I end my session. Thank you to the chamber and to my seniors for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitya. It was a very clean presentation. I have to thank the President once again for launching one of my other staff. This is her maiden performance, and I wanted her to, be first in my own place in the chamber. Thank you, Nitya. You did a very decent job. Thank you. Now we can go to any questions of this sort. If, as I initially said, right now this may not be very relevant to people who are less than 500 crores. I wish all the participants are to be in the bracket who will be in e-invoicing, but it may take some time. But that is my wishful prayer. Notwithstanding that, this is going to be a norm. Right now it may be 500 crores or in very near future. Either by virtue of your increased turnover of more than 500 crores, you may have to become a party to this, or this may be, the threshold may be lowered, that 500 crores will become someday to 100 crores very soon, somewhere in April. And if this goes well, and it may further become, inevitable to a 1 crore threshold in future. So knowing this and getting ready, knowledge is always, very important. So these are the things which are going to be at the corner, end of the tunnel. It is going to be there. So it is only a matter of time that e-invoicing is going to become part and parcel of GST, provided I can see Mr. Balasubramanian smiling, whether with the latest things going around on compensation says, whether there will be GST at all. Sir, it will be there definitely. So definitely this is going to be the future, and let us be the first to be prepared. And I'm very happy that Chamber has taken the initiative to be the the fountainhead for every radical change. And this could also be one. And last but not the least, I want to say that one more thing is, if there is going to be a question that whether this e-invoicing is optional, that even if I'm not at 500, still can I submit myself to this e-invoicing scheme to be future ready? To be future ready? No. They have very clearly said that only 500 crores will be the threshold limit. It is not an option that for 500 crores plus it is mandatory, and for the balance it is going to be optional. No. But that day is not so far. With this, I go to the floor. Any questions on this, we'll take it on all the 3 points we touched upon. And over to you, President. Thank you.
Let me first compliment your staff both Nitin and Nitya did a good job. And we couldn't say that it's a first made in
This is a made
seminar, yes, submission. She did she did really well.
Thank you,
And
sir.
it went on very faultlessly, I should say.
Thank you, sir.
Nice, a good training you are giving to your staff. Congratulations on that. I just
Thank
want
you.
to know one thing on this 2BRs, GSTR 2B. You're saying that once the invoice is not filed by the supplier in the portal, then the credit is not applicable to the person who has bought material. So if he's not doing it on time, we have an issue on that. What should the buyer do if the supplier is not filed on time? Because there are certain companies which have been permitted to file quarterly returns for smaller turnovers. And many of them file their invoices also on a quarterly basis, not on a monthly basis. So is there an issue on that?
Sir, on quarterly, yes, sir. On quarterly, there is definitely an issue because this is month on month, and you for the quarterly return filers, that is on what to say, if it's going to file for a quarter, you may be having the invoice, you may be having the goods or services, or you may be also using it properly. You would have utilized it also. You would have also made the payment, which means all the strict pillars of availment of ITC as per section 16 of the Act is met to the T. But unfortunately, that person has not uploaded the invoice. And so you will be, there is unless there is a 2A, for 2A it is 100%. For non-2A, you can now have only 10%. That is what is the 36.4, I think, Nitin was saying. So there is a definitive issue for the quarterly taxpayers. Only thing, sir, we have to ensure or we have to push them to upload it on time. That is the only thing I think we can. But again, for a quarterly person, asking them to do it monthly is a penalty. Yeah, for our convenience, we are not doing it. I mean, we are making them to become monthly. That is an issue. Maybe I'll ask our Mr. Renugan, if he is available on board, our mentor. Does he have any remedy to this, which everyone is asking us? Sir, are you online, sir?
No, quarterly to switch it to monthly, unless they are obliging to our request. So it is a problem. It has to be addressed by the government.
Yes, sir. It is a burning issue everywhere, as you rightly said. This has to be addressed, or the 36.4 has to be scrapped. Either of it has to happen.
They can amend that rule, excluding quarterly filers.
Exactly. Or for quarterly filers, they may give 100%.
Yes.
And for the rest, they can push. Put this embargo.
Yes. Yes.
Or they should give the timeline for filing for GSTR for them, for the quarterly persons, 3 months, not the next month.
My only suggestion could be, will this be workable? I'm just asking. Can he file the GSTR 1 monthly, because that is not going to cost him revenue. It is only a procedure, and it is only a return which has no financial impact. So 3B can 3B be filed quarterly where there is a revenue impact on payment, whereas 1 can be filed on so and so date. And whether 2A is connected only to GSTR 1, then am I right?
Yes, they can file it.
Oh, can this be via media, sir? I am not saying that this is a cult solution.
No. This is one of the suggestions.
Can this be a suggestion that they let them file the GSTR 1 monthly, because it is not going to hurt them financially, and 3B quarterly, so that that will be reflected in our 2A also, and we go ahead and taking credit. Could that be a possible via media? Yeah, I mean, trade should answer that.
No, the problem is, sir, many of them, it is not cost free, because they are going to a consultant to file the return.
Sir,
that is the problem.
Sir, you are talking to a consultant, sir.
No. I'm sorry. Okay, practice. No, this is not a consultant.
Sir, I'm trying to improve a business and suggesting this. Fairly,
Oh,
I'm only suggesting 2 times he can come to us.
Natarajan here.
Yes, Natarajan.
See, once the new return, which was proposed earlier and postponed because of this COVID and all, once the
Then
new return comes, we will have the facility, because the new return, even if you are on quarterly basis, the invoices can be uploaded even on a daily basis. That facility is available under the new return scheme. So if that has also come along with this, that will be, anyway, it will come. Actually, it was supposed to come long back. So once that comes, even though he is a quarterly dealer, invoices can be uploaded on daily basis and return can be filed on quarterly basis. Now that may not be possible. Under the new return, it is possible.
yes, sir. Maybe that that could also solve the issue.
Okay.
But I
But
still
I think-
prefer 2 times he visiting us, sir. Once for GSTR 1 and one for 3B.
That's nice, sir. But
Yes,
one
sir.
thing is, I think probably we can also give a representation from the chamber
Yeah.
that this has to be looked into, and
Very true, sir.
council should take a decision on this.
Very true. This is a very valid burning point for long. True, sir. We'll definitely, I'll also do a representation, send it to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
And
So the floor
any
is
other,
open. Anybody else?
any other queries on this?
I've raised one query,
Yes.
that is whether the e-invoice will do a cross-check on the rate of invoice based on HSN while doing the invoice.
No, 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 no. You are making an invoice and you are only getting the number. Or it is your proprietary, it is your responsibility for all the details mentioned in the invoice. That is not going to do any validation in respect of valuation, classification, 4-digit code, nothing. As Nitya originally pointed out, it is not generating an invoice. You are generating an invoice and getting a stamp of approval from them. So that it gets, accountability is created, that's all. So it will not be considered maybe, I'm into an e-invoice, so you should not question me. You know that pretty well. So contributory negligence, there is no suppression of fact. Nothing helps, sir, if that is going to be your ballpark.
That 180 days criteria,
Yes.
once you do an e-invoicing, I think it may also get automatically, that reversal may pop up. No?
The complication could be there will be part payments also. See, if it is a full payment, you are very right that it may help us. Like they are pushing that entire beyond the time limit into a negative zone. 6 months also they may do it, but unfortunately this is part payments and you are eligible for part credits also. So the dissection is purely private to 2 parties. So they cannot monitor from the cloud. So that we also thought of it, whether it will help, but it could, it may not.
This debit note, credit note, is it only GST debit note, credit note, or financial credit note, debit note will not come anywhere?
I
For
don't think
example, when you do a discount at the end of the year, and you do a, where it has not been originally mentioned in the invoice, then there will be a issue when you are raising a credit note. It will not come because you cannot issue a GST credit note, in which case this e-invoicing system cannot be used.
And maybe Natarajan can.
See, debit note, credit notes having GST implications, you should also route it through the e-invoicing portal. Wherever you are issuing only commercial debit note and commercial credit note, it will remain as a commercial credit note that need not be uploaded in the e-invoice portal.
Yes.
That is what your query, no? Even commercial credit note should be routed through e-invoicing portal. No.
It cannot.
Cannot.
There is no GST.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
Sir, I have a query. This 180 days invoice
Yes.
for a running account where even before the GST period, there were outstandings. So, but then the invoice were made and it's a running account, that balances are still lying. Is it going to affect the party on this credit out of 180 days?
You mean to say pre-GST, sir?
Pre-GST outstandings.
No, pre-GST
on a running
outstanding.
account.
No,
Will
this
we
is
take
on
it?
this is
No,
on
will
invoice
we-
to invoice only. And if you're, for example, a payment is going to come, and if you're going to adjust it to your pre-GST outstanding and leave this as unpaid, then it will have an impact. Or if you want to at least save the GST and still hold the other one, the pre-GST as open, even though he has paid only for that, if you want to adjust against this and make the ITC curve complete, then it is all your own decision, sir. How you
So it
want
is,
to.
so it is our decision, sir. Not first in, first out basis. It will not go
No, it should not be.
automatic. It will not go automatic. Okay. Sir.
And
Thank
this
you,
is
sir.
purely discretionary.
Thank you, sir. That's fine.
Yes, sir. Sir, anything else? Mr. President, I think we can close the session.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If no other queries are there, may I request our treasurer, Mr. Dorairaj, to give a vote of thanks.
Normally, sir, when wherever we present, there are no more a lot of questions. It's never the law is simple. Either we were very clear that they have understood everything, or we are absolutely they have not understood anything. But I am very sure with this forum, if they have not understood, they will definitely come back to me and say that JK, you are not clear. So I take it as a deemed thing that we have been clear. My
Yes,
voice.
sir. Very clear.
Thank you,
They
sir.
have been very clear. Thank you very much. Yes,
Okay.
Dorairaj.
Good evening. Respected President Sri V. Lakshmi Narayana Swami, Sri S. Jaikumar, Advocate and Country Aide, Mr. Nitin Chopra, and Ms. Nitya and team of officials from Ms. Swami Associates, my colleagues, past presidents, and participants of today's program. Good evening to you all. I sincerely thank on all your behalf Sri S. Jaikumar and his team of officials for having kindly made it possible to address our members today. As usual, as mentioned by our president, our friend and GST consultant, Sri S. Jaikumar, is always conservative and be part of our chamber to update our members on any issues relating to GST. And today for this session on e-invoicing and GST returns. I'm sure this will be very beneficial to all of us. Our members will be always free to approach Sri S. Jaikumar for any clarification on GST issues.
Sure.
With these few words, I thank once again all of you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was always a pleasure. And once again, thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll leave the meeting. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anna, thank you. Yeah, bye.